and welcome to all of our AFC North fans to another edition of the AFC North cast. It's Wednesday evening between weeks 1 and 2. We're on the eve of Browns Bengals. And I think it's safe to say at this point in the year, the AFC North cast, it only cares about one thing. That's winning and producing.
Bingo. Winning Wednesday. That's when we're
That's right.
That's when we'll be potting for the rest of the regular season.
Yep, going head to head, podcasting at the same time as the We Got Game podcast, even though they don't do anything live.
Is it fair to say we retired them?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
Just
it is. That was
played bully ball.
Question. Bad for radio.
What you drinking tonight, buddy? Celebratory suds?
Dude, when the Steelers win their first game of the year, you drink something really tasty. This beer is called Stupulator. It's a German-style Doppelbock, basically a dark beer, boozy, and it's done by the Alchemists, most famous for Heady Topper, one of the more famous craft beers in the United States. And Joey, it's a fantastic beer. When I get tired of listening to you talk, I'm just going to take a sip of it, and I'm just going to go to a better place. Because when the Ravens win as much as they did this week, I'm going to have to hear you just puff all up, and it's exhausting.
Yeah, that's right. You are going to have to hear it. And I understand that when your wins are not as expected, you have to celebrate each one like it might be the last. But
That's
this
what I'll be
Ravens
doing
win,
today.
this Ravens win was nothing special. One of hopefully 20 or 19, depending on how the playoffs go. And so we're celebrating today with an American Pilsner, brewed in the fine city of Houston, Texas. Some of the noted characteristics: its superior drinkability. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. We got Bud Light going. Bud Light.
Is that the 16?
No, sir. Just a regular old 12.
Regular old 12. Oh my God, no days off.
Hey,
No
you know
days
what?
off.
It's just the Browns, all right? It's just the Browns. We're not getting too worked up, guys.
I'm just saying to respect yourself. That's all I'm saying.
I tried to look up like styles and like where it's brewed before we got on tonight, and I went to some like beer rating website, and they have like a score. It was like a Rotten Tomatoes type score. 45% awful. It's like,
That's a little harsh.
fuck it.
That's a little harsh. I mean, it's not a good beer in terms of like craft. But if you need to be at a barbecue and you've got a sixer and you can't be driving cans around home, you want something like Bud Light where you can drink it over the course of a few hours and safely transport yourself from plan A to plan B. And by the way, I don't advocate drinking and driving, but I'm just saying this is the kind of thing that Bud Light drinkers do. That's all I'm saying.
Can
I'm not
neither
judging people.
confirm
It just
nor
is what it
deny.
is. But we're here to talk football. The beer's just for drinking, just for fun. So I guess we may as well start at the beginning. And the beginning is...
So, as far as the AFC North goes, the NFL season started the same way that it's going to end, and that's with the Ravens' victory. The Ravens trounced the Browns. Final score 38-6. I think the Browns' performance was underwhelming and not what everybody kind of expected. And the Ravens' performance, just at least as far as like execution and how they looked on offense and defense, it picked up right where they left off in the regular season last year.
Yeah, almost irritatingly so. Like there was supposed to be struggle and difficulty because of the lack of preseason and whatnot. And you knew that teams that were returning some players like the Ravens and returning coordinators and all that were going to have an easier time of it. But this was a little too easy. And I think the Browns made it that way.
Yeah, yeah, it was a little bit slow of a start. The Ravens scored on, it was 3-0, and then the Browns in their own territory on like fourth and like five ish in the first quarter did a fake punt.
Actually,
And
it was 7-0.
was it 7-0
It was because they converted this into a
into
field
the
goal, and
field goal?
this will be forever known as the moment when the Scottish hammer became a Scottish nail. Right?
I love that.
I mean,
Oof.
yeah, right. I think Justin would approve.
Yeah.
Um, what's his name? Gillen, James Gillen, something Gillen. He's great. He played rugby. He thought that he was just going to run for 4 yards and it was going to be great. And LJ Fort of Steelers fame, as in famous for never playing him, comes in and just tears the ball away from him, crushes him, and he fumbles.
He basically
And
exploded.
it's just like this is so Browns. And bear in mind that the Browns have already like there's already been an interception. Like Baker has already thrown an interception. It is just snowballing so fast that you feel like it's something more powerful than gravity at this point. So at that point, it goes to 10-0, right? Or was it 10-3? I don't
10
know. It was
10 nothing after
it
that.
was a
Um,
big mess.
10 nothing after that. Following Browns drive, the Browns moved the ball well early in the game. They rushed relatively successfully, which is what we expected from them. They have Chubb and Hunt. They're very formidable. Um, Went down, got a touchdown. Seibert missed the extra point.
I forgot about that.
And then so we
They
have,
stink. Oh, they just stink.
he did not make a kick in this game. He missed it. He missed his only extra point and missed his only field goal.
Yeah,
But we'll
and by
get
the way,
to
more
that
to
field
come
goal.
on Cyber. More to come on Cyber.
Okay.
Lots of excitement with Cyber news.
So I mean, really, the first half set the whole game up, and then the second half was just like cruise control. So missed extra point. Uh, they trade punts back and forth, and James Prochet, one of the Ravens' rookie wide receivers, he's been doing punt return duty. In my opinion, misplays a ball. It basically lets it bounce from like the 15 all the way down to the 1, when he should have just fair caught it. And so it's like, oh, well, shit. We're on the 1 yard line, right? You think, like, well, maybe the Browns can cash in here, get some field position, get back in it. Well, the Ravens go on a 99-yard touchdown drive that culminated in, I think that was a Willie Snead touchdown, or
I think it.
maybe,
Yes, yes.
Dobbins' first touchdown.
Yeah, it was one. There's
So
so
many
many.
touchdowns. They all just run
I
into one another.
This was an important moment though, actually, because a to me this drive basically summed up life on defense for the Browns today, or Sunday, because everything was working for the Ravens, so it looked remarkably easy, and I think this was around the time that I wrote down in my notes. Lamar Jackson never looks like he's throwing the ball hard,
Yeah.
ever. And that's not because the ball isn't getting from A to B quickly. It's just because he doesn't look like he's trying hard because everything is so effortless. But here's the thing, and actually, what's his face? Ken McCusick, who does film study, which is a great analysis of Baltimore football. If we have any other fans besides Joey here, he actually pointed out that Jackson was under pressure for many of his dropbacks in this game, particularly on this drive. Cleveland's defensive line was winning, but Lamar Jackson's passer rating when he was under pressure was like 140, which for the record is almost perfect. So this drive, like the Browns D line, which is great, was winning. Like they were winning and getting in there, and he was just completing passes anyway. He didn't care, and he didn't run that much this game, which is a little bit frightening for the rest of the football world. But I just wanted to make note of that drive specifically because it just really felt like it encompassed the whole game. You know,
Yeah, it was like the first play of that drive was like a rollout pass to Ricard in the flat, and it was a first down. And then there was like a 30-yard pass to Boykin of similar nature. Like you said, the D line was getting penetration, and Lamar would just escape out and flick it to somebody crossing,
yeah.
and it was beautiful.
The
So
other, oh, sorry,
go
go.
ahead.
Well, I was just going to say the other thing that made it so perfectly summarizing the game, encapsulating it, is that um, when you're winning, a lot of times the big thing happen consecutively. And so it happens with losing too. So for the Browns, they had just gone on a drive where they reached, I believe, the Ravens' 29-yard line. And after like a sack and two penalties, had a fourth and 41, I
Yep,
think, fourth and 31, fourth and
it was
41. So they
41. Yeah,
yeah, so they were in field goal range, maybe not, but seemingly in field goal range. Sorry, Cyber. That's softball. Um, and they punt and they seemingly make a great special teams play, and it just cascades and just goes out of control. They're on the precipice of points, and it turns into a 99-yard drive for a touchdown because of a couple stupid penalties and taking a bad sack.
yep, and that was uh, the almost final big swing. So I mean that goes from, if you're looking at getting points, the game is 10-6
Right.
before this sequence of events. So now we're 17-6, getting towards the end of the half. Browns start driving again. They, like I said, when they were able to be multi-dimensional, they did move the ball well. Njoku was getting in the mix. Like they were making it
Yeah.
happen.
Third string tight end. Who knew?
Yeah, and
Who knew?
that's all they needed. Yeah, it's just to move him down the depth chart.
I guess so.
That ends with, I think there was like 40 seconds left in the
Oh,
first
well, that
half.
okay, that drive's
Seibert
important
Seibert
because
missed a 41-yard field goal
after OBJ dropped a
on
gimme
third and
on
two.
down.
Right,
So
right.
that was the other big drive that I thought was important. That yeah, that was just. And why don't you take us through what the Ravens did after that?
Yeah. So with 41 seconds left, the Ravens get the ball, um, and they just march down the field, out routes, sideline routes, comebacks to Hollywood and Mark Andrews, back and forth, opposite sides of the field. And Lamar throws a really underrated. He is very very comfortable and understanding of like angles in the red zone and like on the goal line, and it's very hard to pass in those areas, and he does it very well. And that the touchdown to Andrews right before the half, which was not the Andrews spectacular catch, the Browns were in like cover 4. Like everyone was in the end zone, and he just threaded it in where only Andrews could get it. So that was 17-6 to 24-6 at the half, and then basically the game was over. The Ravens went on cruise control on offense for the rest of the game. They only scored twice more, and the defense was able to just be bullies, and everything snowballed. OBJ body language went to hell. Just
Yeah,
all the bad things happened.
it was bad, and I'm gonna try to make sure Lamar only has bad games from here on out, so I don't have to do this sort of stuff. But also, um, he was extremely accurate in this game. The big critique that all of us hold on to with Lamar is that he's not accurate. Well, he was, and it even showed on the play before the Mark Andrews touchdown, which was he threw a ball to the near pylon for Miles Boykin, and Boykin didn't quite catch it, and it would have been a very tough catch, but Lamar put that exactly where he needed to because it was pretty tight coverage. and it was like a classic type of throw that accurate quarterbacks make. They put the ball in a place where only the receiver can get it, and it was really aggravating. Because we're excited about Boykin and he didn't catch it, although I thought he had a pretty good game other than that. And B, because Lamar's supposed to screw up and he just didn't. He just didn't screw up anything. He did
Yeah,
screw up one. He screwed up one thing in the fourth quarter. They were like driving for one of their two scores, and he ran and got a first down. And then like 5 yards after, he like leaned into a tackle. He like initiated contact,
like
and I was like,
dove
dude,
head first, like
yeah,
inside the 5 yard line. Yeah,
they were up 31-6. It's like, dude, you're an
yeah,
idiot. Like, smarten up, man. If it was 14-10, fine. Like, but dude, just step out of bounds. You already got the first down. There's nothing to get.
yeah,
That was the mistake. He accidentally gained 8 extra yards.
yeah. And on that run, you also saw how when he's evading guys and escaping, um, like the pass rush, he's not in like his final gear. He understands that he's just faster than everybody else and that he doesn't need to go 100% because you could see after he decided to go, because he's a very willing passer when he's escaping the pocket. After he decided to go and then like he hit that next gear, it was like, oh fuck. And that's really the only time we probably saw it on Sunday. Um, that was
Yeah.
the other biggest thing. I think big picture, and you touched on it already as far as kind of putting the rest of the league on notice. So the Ravens did a similar thing last year against the Dolphins. They didn't run all over the Dolphins in week 1 last year. They threw all over them. But that was the talentless tanking Dolphins. Um, this is not the talentless tanking Dolphins. And the Ravens only rushed for 111 yards, and they were up all game long. So the Ravens passed kind of at will, and it's just more of the same. The yardage on either side of the ball on offense was not something incredible. Like you're like, oh my god, an offensive outburst, but everything ends in points, and so they're so efficient that they score 30 something points and only have like 400 yards of offense total.
Yeah, I think, and this is why I'm thankful for that Baltimore Ken McCusick podcast, because watching the game, I had very few notes about Baltimore's defense or the lines, and it didn't feel right. But it turns out like Baltimore's offensive line didn't perform particularly well. Um, so that could be a factor in the running game also. Like when they got predictable in the second half because they didn't care. They actually didn't really have much success
No.
because they weren't winning the line. So that could be a concern in a closer game moving forward. They've got a couple injuries that we'll talk about. Um, and a point of pride for the Browns. Their D line was good. They will get pressure and they will not face any more quarterbacks that do the things that Lamar does. So
Right.
get ready for some sacks. And also, the interior of the Browns offensive line was excellent. Like they were working it. Joel Batonio, J.C. Treader, and when you get Jedrick Wills before he gets hurt, when you get him going forward and trying to move people, guess what? He does that. So you get like Cleveland is going to have a great running game this
That
year.
run game is very formidable.
So that's going to be exciting. So if they start to kind of create an identity for themselves and Baker plays a little better and some of the skill position players accept that they're going to have to maximize less opportunities, talking to you, OBJ, could be dangerous team, but they got a ways to go, and obviously shooting yourself in the foot. That's so Browns.
Yep. Yeah, the second quarter doomed them. They had the two big swings with the 99-yard drive after being in plus territory in the third and 41, and the missed field goal right before the half. And that was it. It was a close, they had an opportunity to go up in the second quarter on that drive before all the penalties happened. So
Yeah. I don't want to say anything more mean about the Browns at this point. They still have to talk about their game coming up, and it might be mean just saying it's going to be competitive. Um, is there any other Ravens that you want to celebrate? I only have one more that I think needs to be mentioned.
um, I want to point out. So I have two things. I'm sorry. Try not to make this a long podcast. Hollywood Brown showed that he's more than a one-trick pony in this game. He had 5 catches for 101 yards in the game, but all of that came in the first half. And it was not just bombs to Hollywood. He was running real routes, and
Yeah, a couple in the middle
he
of the
looks
field too.
great.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then the last thing, part of that meltdown that the Browns had, the penalties were preceded by 2 plays. One of them was a defensed pass by Malik Harrison, Ravens rookie linebacker, in coverage, which is not something that's considered his strong suit. And that's really the only thing we saw of him in this game. The very next play, Patrick Queen came on the blitz and got a sack. And so I was just sitting here in my living room beaming at these young Ravens linebackers, and hopefully that's a glimpse of things to come the next 5+ years. And that was really awesome to see.
Perfect segue, Joey, because my last thing that I thought really had to be mentioned is I didn't notice Patrick Queen do almost anything except that sack. And I know he was making tackles, but I just wasn't really noticing him, which is kind of good because I didn't see him like totally miss any coverages or whatever
Mm-hmm.
until Nick Chubb chugging along on a nice run, 2 hands on the ball, doing Nick Chubb things, and Patrick Queen takes the ball from Nick Chubb while he has 2 hands on the ball. You gotta like that, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you don't just take the ball from Nick Chubb. That was
Yeah.
crazy. I couldn't believe it. I had to watch it a couple times. I was like, wait a minute, did someone else like punch it or something? And like Nick Chubb kind of got stood up by I guess it was LJ
LJ
Fort.
Fort.
So
Mm-hmm.
but still he had his hands on it, and like it is just not common for that to happen. And so, involved in a big turnover play, had a sack. Um, Exciting. Good
Love
week
to
one.
see it. All right.
All
Yeah.
right.
So,
Done. Done. It's nonsense.
yeah, we're
Let's
done
move
blowing
on.
the Ravens.
Stick to
We'll
my
move
stuff.
on to first action we got to see of Mr. Joseph Burrow. Cincinnati lost to the Chargers on Sunday afternoon, 16-13, because of a fucking kicker. But we'll get to some of that. Joe Burrow's first touchdown in the NFL was a rushing touchdown of like 23 yards.
It was,
Um,
yeah.
And I thought that he looked good, but he just made like typical rookie mistakes. But I think that we saw why Joe Burrow is the presumptive future of the Bengals in the game.
Yeah, I want to stop here for a moment because I thought that TD run was important. Because I have specifically on this podcast said at least 2 different times that Joe Burrow would not successfully be a runner in the NFL. So, 1, Joe Burrow, 0, Stillers Chad. Uh, he really, I mean, the Chargers did him every opportunity. I don't know if you rewatched that play, but their linemen set up so
Yeah.
wide that I would have been tempted to run. I might have just got the first down, not a touchdown. Like, but Joe Burrow did such a good job. He held off. He went past that first level, and then he held up, and center Trey Hopkins got the last block on I don't know which linebacker it was, but that's what sprung
Yeah.
Joe Burrow loose. And Joe Burrow did a really nice job allowing Trey to engage that block. So it was a really savvy run on his part.
Yeah.
He had other moments, and I'll get to them momentarily, where he really felt like a rookie, like things were being rushed. But in a moment in which you are a rookie quarterback in the middle of the football field, and there are people trying to kill you from actually 360 different degrees.
Yeah.
Like, he took his time and he let the play develop to maximize it. And I thought that showed a ton of poise, which I was really impressed with. On the other side of it was all these pitches he was trying to do as he was getting sacked. Joe, I know you're a playmaker. I get it. You got to put that to bed because you're going to be turning those over. And in fact, he did. He didn't read a screen well, and he basically pitched a screen to Joe Mixon, which Melvin Ingram read and just like took. Um, so that was kind of the both sides of the Joe Burrow equation today. He wasn't good with the deep ball, but I think he was better than he's being given credit for. They didn't show a replay on it, but in the second quarter, he threw a deep ball to John Ross. And I think John Ross misread it, and I think he short armed it because it looked pretty catchable in the back of the end zone. So I'm going to give Burrow credit for one of those missed deep balls, and John Ross, you know, he's been screwing that up since the beginning of time.
Since
But
day
he's not
one.
hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you know, bummer there. But man, they just bungle, man. The Bungles, they just bungle. Like, why do they do it, Joey? Mixon fumbled. He hadn't fumbled in like 3 years, and he
Yeah.
fumbled. Like, Burrow threw that interception on a promising drive. Bullock, he didn't even get hurt. He didn't even get hurt. He had a calf cramp to end the game. The Bengals are down. The Bengals are down 16-13. A, Joe Burrow threw a touchdown. He threw a
He led
touchdown.
a game-winning touchdown drive.
He
Absolutely.
led a game-winning touchdown drive. AJ Green, if you like rules and you like to read rules and you like books with bullet points and lists, then you know that AJ Green cheated. You know he did. He pushed and his arm extended, and that's it. That's the end of it. But if you like moments and you respect these are two men in a moment and they're two forces acting on each other, you might not love that call. And you might just love that moment where AJ Green and what was it, Hayward, are battling two great players. AJ Green wins that battle and has a really nice toe tap touchdown to presumably win the game for the Bengals. Instead, they call offensive pass interference. And when Bullock comes up to kick that field goal, he gets a calf cramp and kicks a 31-yard field goal wide, and they lose. Joey, this was important. This was an important moment. Look, I'm going to do a little PR for the Bengals and Joe Burrow here. I'm going to make this good. It had to happen. Joe Burrow needed to know what he was a part of. He had to be in the bungle. He had to be right in the middle of the whole bungle so he could appreciate where they are and where they need to go. And now he's seen it. Now he has seen it and he's been a part of it. And maybe we can start to turn the corner. But you have to hit rock bottom in these sort of situations.
Yeah, I agree. If I'm a Bengals fan, like we said, he led a game-winning touchdown drive, and that's all I needed to see in Week 1 from my first start rookie quarterback. The celebration after the touchdown run, you can tell that his teammates fucking love him. That's why they made him a captain his rookie
Word.
year. You know,
Captain Joe.
um,
Captain Joe.
they love him. So AJ's out there playing for him. You know, look at that. Um, Once they get a little more comfortable and he cuts down on some of the dumb stuff, the game starts to slow down a little bit more for him, and he's not making these like the frantic like pitch to Joe Mixon for an interception and dumb little plays like that. Um, I mean, Joe Mixon, AJ Green, Tyler Boyd, like that last
Yeah.
drive. What's his name? Michael Thomas. I had to look that guy up. I never even heard of that guy. I was like, I noticed him
Yeah.
both the times he made a catch were in like nice, like crucial situations, and so I think the Bengals have a lot of reason to be happy. Jermaine Pratt had 12 tackles in this game.
Yeah, I
Um,
didn't count the stats, but the one thing I did make a note for him is that he definitely didn't like miss coverages this game. Like,
yeah,
and none of the Bengals linebackers did. You didn't see the running back sneak out and just be totally ignored, things like that. I still think Jermaine Pratt, like for all the tackles he makes, he's just like he's always the guy that's next to the tackle. Like I always see him helping somebody up. It's like Jermaine, I kind of feel like you should be making 20 tackles a game. I don't know. It's bugging me though. Because I keep thinking, like, is he doing really well, or is he just next to the ball? Is he the guy that gets a
Is he
job because
just
he's just
almost there?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But no, overall, I like his play. Also, I don't know if you noticed, but it got a little bit chippy in the first half at one point, and there's a little bit of shoving around. And Jermaine Pratt tried the classic LeBron flop in front of the
I
ref.
did
He
not
like
see that.
exaggeratedly fell down. That's a classic LeBron move, and Cleveland loves LeBron. Ohio loves LeBron. So, I mean, this guy's going to be a hometown hero in a hurry. I'm a big believer in Jermaine Pratt. Keep your eyes on number 57 at all times.
Yeah,
He's always around. He's either making the tackle, helping made up. You got to love that, or the LeBron flop. Three
that's right.
tricks.
Give him a
Yeah,
little,
he's
give
got
him a
it.
little this, a little.
Yeah. In less great news, ultra hyped Darius Phillips could have had a better game. He could have had a better game. Mike Williams, he's just good. And I don't even think Darius Phillips played that bad, but he just looked bad because he kept getting these crazy catches on him. And he also fell down once on an out route. I think that might have been Keenan Allen. But yeah, he was. I'm still high on Darius Phillips. Once he's playing not Tyrod, who throws like one interception every 4 years,
Yeah.
he's gonna get his hands on the ball, and we're gonna be back to just throwing all sorts of love on Darius Phillips. But tough week one for his first time being like a starting outside corner.
Yeah.
That was a
Yeah.
bummer.
So I think this was a good first game. Because like Tyrod was not gonna come out here and like push the ball and hang a zillion points on the Bengals. Um, and I think they handled this offensive line handled the Chargers pass rush, which is one of the better pass rushes in the league, pretty well.
Nah.
Pretty well.
We might agree to disagree there. I think Joe took what 3 sacks.
3 sacks. Yeah.
I think so. I mean, I'm not going to say anything nice about Bobby Hart.
I'm not asking you to. I wouldn't put you in a compromising position like that.
Thank you. I mean, I just.
But yeah, I mean, I'm optimistic about the Bengals after week one, and we'll get into it very shortly here, previewing the next game. Like, they're going to be in some football games, and Joe Burrow's going to be doing some learning on the fly, and it'll still be fun. I want to watch the Bengals now. Like, I want to watch Joe Burrow. And last year, I did not want to watch the Bengals.
Yeah, they're definitely more interesting than last year. I might temper you a little bit and say, like, just as a reminder, this game finished 16-13,
Yeah.
and we covered, like, all the good plays. Like, except for Jesse Bates, who is awesome if you like football pre 2014. Like, Jesse Bates was out there striking people. Like, he,
Yeah.
he was like, as a safety, my job is that if a receiver catches a deep ball, I punish them for it.
Baptizing people.
Corporally.
Yeah.
Corporal punishment for catches. And he was doing it. And he got penalized. I think many football fans would say unfairly. And I think that, frankly, I think Cincinnati, you just embrace it. Jesse Bates played a hell of a game. He lost a few yards for it. But, dude, this isn't last year's Jesse Bates. He's coming to play this year. He's out there
That's
making
my
moves.
brand of football. I'm here for it. I'm here for be the bully, be the bad guy on the block.
Yeah, yeah.
Because
So
like the way the Legion of Boom played, like they can't call all of it, so just let it fly, man.
Yeah, and again, I think they were legal hits. You know, he's not out there cheating. This isn't like a Vontez perfect situation. It was a little bit of bad luck. So he's just playing a good, aggressive, physical brand of football. Plus, he was great in coverage, and you know, I think you again now have a young free safety to be excited about. 1 year hiatus, you're back.
All right. Should we go to Monday Night Football?
The
The
game of the week.
showcase. The
The
showcase
show.
of the Immortals. The Steelers went up to East Rutherford to take on the Giants and Danny Dimes and Joe Judge. Lots of good nicknames up there.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Saquon Barkley. And it was tight for the first half. It took Ben a little while to kind of get going.
It
It's
did.
his first game action in just under a year. Um, but they got going, and they got Benny Snell going, and the defense did their thing as we expected. The Steelers' defense forcing turnovers. Um, my favorite thing to watch this year, I think, right now is going to be Bud Dupree,
Good.
because like the
He
counting
might be a
stats,
Raven next year.
there weren't a ton, but my God, he played like a fucking man possessed last night, and
Before we get too high into Bud Dupree talk, because we need to,
yeah,
I
summarize
just
this
want to.
game for us, Chad.
You summarized most of it. The game finished 26-16 as a Steelers victory. So the Steelers were able to pull away, kind of starting at the end of the first half and then going forward from there. Um, the Giants scored kind of a garbage time
I think it
touchdown.
was
So
26-9 or 26-10. Yeah, because they
yeah,
failed a
because they
two-point
went for
conversion.
two. Um, so it was definitely tight for longer than Steelers fans probably were comfortable. And then the Steelers fans pulled away, and it was a very comfortable second half. Back to Bud. So watching Bud Dupree this game was such a great process of seeing Joe Judge, in my head at least, try out different ways to stop an unstoppable force. So clearly, the first way was that he didn't realize that Bud Dupree was an unstoppable force. So their plan
Yeah.
was basically to run Saquon to the other side and pull everybody. So Bud Dupree was unblocked, but the premise is that Saquon will get through the hole before Bud can get to him. And that didn't work at all.
Mm-mm.
Bud Dupree just tackled Saquon in the backfield like embarrassingly quickly. Like it was crazy. And then after a few rounds of that, uh, they started kind of having I think it was the guard would slide back to try to meet Bud Dupree as they ran to the other side of the line of scrimmage. Turns out Bud Dupree's faster than that guy too, so he would still get there first. And then finally, they started trying to help the tackle with a tight end, which I guess they forgot that Bud Dupree is also huge. He weighs like 270 pounds. So he just bullied them and just continued to just not allow any runs to his side of the field and also to just cut off runs behind the line of scrimmage. Um, oh, and for the record, when he wasn't cutting off runs behind the line of scrimmage, he was taking Danny Dimes' arm as he tried to throw touchdown passes and making the ball flutter harmlessly up in the air into the loving arms of one
Yeah.
Cameron Hayward. So, what a great debut for a guy playing on the franchise tag that wants to make so much money and he will. And Steeler fans, it won't be in Pittsburgh, so you really, really need to enjoy this for the next 15 games or hopefully more.
Yep.
Oh, he was so great. I
Yeah,
was
he was
so.
incredible, and to have him on the other side, T.J. Watt did his thing with the interception, and um,
Did you hear about that?
I thought, hear about what I saw it.
Like how it happened. So just like it wasn't a called pass coverage. So basically,
Well,
he
yeah, he
was.
came off his block there. Yeah.
Yeah. So he was. I guess his original intent was like defending the run game. So he wasn't in a pass rush, and he said like I was flat footed because I realized they weren't running, and I just read his eyes and stepped back. So I actually wanted to ask you because I'm surprised you didn't bring this up. Marlon Humphrey had what was his passer rating against Marlon Humphreys?
Oh, it was a
Zero, right?
zero
Zero,
passer
right.
rating.
So do you think that his zero passer rating with like two penalties and a bunch of cheating was better than TJ Watt's zero passer rating, where he just drops back and takes the ball every time?
Well, TJ Watt was not in coverage, so
He was.
it doesn't
He
count.
dropped back into coverage
Nope.
and he intercepted the ball. So
Nope.
zero.
It's just the same as Calais Campbell defended more passes than TJ Watt did.
TJ Watt took the ball every single time he wanted to in pass coverage.
Calais Campbell alley ooped the ball to Marlon Humphrey, who took it.
So we'll agree that the ranking of coverage players in week one went
Calais Campbell, number one.
TJ Watt, Calais Campbell, Marlon Humphrey,
I can live with that. Small sample size, TJ Watt.
Darius Phillips.
Yeah.
many numbers down. So yeah, the Steelers' outside linebackers are filthy, and if you didn't notice, they actually gave their backups some snaps, and their backup getting pressure too. Oladini
Adeyemi
got
got
a
a
couple
sack, right?
pressures. No,
No.
he didn't. He got really close a couple times. He was the one that almost army crawled up the middle of the line on that one play. Um, and and actually Alex Highsmith, rookie, had a couple of nice pressures and a couple of decent run stops too. So nice little bright future seemingly for the Steelers linebackers on defense. And then the one other thing I wanted to make sure we touched on the defensive side was the long touchdown to Darius Slayton. A lot of people want to come out and say, Minka, what are you doing? Deep center field. He was a single high safety for like a lot of this game because they were so sold out on stopping Saquon Barkley, which for the record
They did.
worked pretty well.
Yeah.
What was it? 15 carries for 6 yards?
I don't know. I don't
It
know what the
was,
final was. I know at one point it was 8 for -8.
yeah, he had 8 carries that went for negative yards and 7 carries that went for positive yards. I think he finished with 6 yards. So one of the great run defense performances of all time. But point being, Minka Fitzpatrick was single high safety, and the Steelers got burned on like a 40-yard touchdown to Darius Slayton.
Beautiful
And
pass by Danny Dimes.
Minka was nowhere to be found.
Mm-mm.
And what happened was Darius Slayton beat Steven Nelson. That was unfortunate. But on the replay, you actually see Joe Hayden's man run a shallow crossing route, which Minka comes down to take that player. If you watch it closely, you'll see Joe Hayden wave Minka down onto him, and if you then watch closely the catch, you see that Joe Hayden is is coming back to be the deep guy.
Mm-hmm.
So, not Minka's fault. Not Minka's fault.
I actually, because you had recently been talking shit about Marlins uh, zero passer rating and the penalties because the play before this was a defensive pass interference on Joe Hayden, and so I just counted that.
Lame.
I just counted that touchdown against Joe Hayden and fired off some shit talk to the group chat and was like, well.
That was a lame PI, first of all. And second of all, I just thought Darius Slayton was a player that I underestimated on the Giants in this game. He played well. He beat Steven Nelson twice for touchdowns.
He's fast.
Yeah, he's a good player. He ran a couple nice routes, and Daniel Jones threw nice passes to him too. And I think that in my laziness and having no preseason, I didn't do my due diligence with the Giants. So I'll do it now. Darius Slayton is a good football player. He's not going to be the Giants' primary receiving target this year, but he is a dangerous weapon, and he played a good game. Daniel Jones also, in my opinion, played a good game. The Steelers crushed the running game, but they did not succeed on a lot of third and longs as a defense. And that's because Daniel Jones, despite the fact that he was getting pressured from every single person on the Steelers front, especially Bud Dupree and TJ Watt, was standing in there and he was throwing strikes on third and long into some zone coverages where the Steelers maybe weren't as precise as they should have been. And I was impressed. Like, I was honestly,
Yeah.
I was disappointed in the Steelers coverage, but I thought Daniel Jones showed a lot of chutzpah to stand in there in a situation like he was in and make those passes. So good on him.
Yeah, I also thought he showed poise. He made some mental mistakes, um, but he took off and ran, and he can scoot a little bit. You know, it's not
Sure.
something you think about with him. Um, he had like 15 fumbles last year in 16
15 that he
games,
lost. 15 that he
and
lost. He had 18 total.
he had no fumbles on Monday night, and so
Almost. He was very close to having a fumble that TJ Watt caused that almost was for a touchdown after the
I don't remember
Steelers.
that one.
Well, it was like the first drive. It was when the
I
Steelers
must not even.
decided to be Steelers and Deontay Johnson fumbled the first punt and the Giants
Mm-hmm.
got the ball on like the 4 yard line. TJ Watt, as Daniel Jones was throwing, hit his hand and the ball like popped forward and the Giants
I
recovered it
mean,
like right on the
yeah,
goal line and they
that's not
called it
even
an
the types
incomplete
of
pass.
fumbles that I'm talking. Like, I wouldn't even blame that fumble on Daniel Jones, like,
I'm just telling you that
necessarily.
TJ Watt causes a lot of fumbles that way.
Okay,
You know?
so
Can't help how he does it.
we'll call the NFL record keeping and tell them to give TJ Watt an almost fumble.
Look, I didn't know that you had your own rules for fumbles. Just telling you that he did drop the ball. Like, he lost control of the ball. He still does it.
So that's an incomplete pass, is what it was.
That's what they called it.
So that's what it was.
Oh, is that how you rule things now? Like the Saints pass interference, the way they called it is what it was? Come on, Joey. What are you, some sort of
I
patsy?
mean,
Are you cheating?
what are the record books? Did the Saints go to the Super Bowl?
Wow. It's a good thing that you
Anyways,
guys listen to this podcast where we do so much critical thinking.
anyways, once the Steelers scratched and clawed, and they basically, this game was similar to the Ravens game in that the Steelers scored right before halftime, and then the game was pretty much over. Um,
Yeah.
you want to talk
Yeah,
about Big Ben?
Yeah, I do. I have a few notes on some offensive guys. Just obviously, Big Ben was the focus of everybody because he hasn't played in a long time. He threw his first touchdown in like 650 days because apparently he didn't throw any touchdowns against this. No, he didn't. The Steelers lost in Week 1, 33-3 to the Pats last year, so he hadn't thrown a touchdown in a long time. He was a little bit of a mess initially, especially under pressure. He was like, classic Ben getting wrapped up, two guys on each leg, and he like
Yeah.
slips it out. But this time he threw it like over people's heads like three times in a row. Um, but there was a drive at the end of the first quarter where he made two throws consecutively that made me pretty comfortable with where he is physically. And the first one was an incomplete pass. He took a low snap on 2nd and 9, like, and he quick picked it up and like zipped it right away without even like
Yeah.
fixing the ball and
I
the thing.
remember that it was in like a double or triple coverage
It was
almost.
triple coverage. There were three guys converging, and Deontay Johnson was running a slant, and it hit Deontay right where it needed to. And it could have been Deontay not quite making a good catch, or the defense. There's hands everywhere, but it was fast and it was accurate.
Yeah.
And on the next play, Ben Roethlisberger takes a snap, and this is classic Ben Roethlisberger. You know that before, it might have been 40 minutes ago, he was looking at that spot on the sideline, and he was like, I just have to throw a ball there.
Is that the Claypool catch?
That's right, it was. So he gets the snap. Claypool's in the game. Chase Claypool, also known as Megatron, didn't have that many plays on offense, and he was in double coverage. But Ben Roethlisberger already decided 40 minutes ago that he was throwing this ball at this one spot on the sideline. And thank goodness, Chase Claypool is very tall and very big, and he just tapped those toes, made a perfect catch over everybody. And I was like, all right, that's Ben. That's Ben. Coverage be damned. Just an accurate, perfect pass that shows will is much more important than scheme or understanding. And it was great. And he didn't play perfectly after that. Um, but it was definitely the beginning of me believing that he's not just like an injured 38-year-old guy that's just out there to get hurt again. So that was nice. And that was Chase Claypool's biggest play of the game. He had one other catch on a third down, and then he ended the game on a jet sweep for a first down. And he missed the special teams tackles. Jabril Peppers, pretty elusive dude, who's just a little too much for Chase. He had a couple very close attempts, but it's coming. Those special teams tackles are coming. So yeah, Ben Roethlisberger looked pretty good. Juju is back. He did what he does. Physical. No spectacular catches. That's not what you're going to get from Juju most of the time. You're going to get speed, physicality after the catch. And he brought that.
James Washington brought some physicality too on that touchdown.
He sure did. That was a great touchdown. That was a great touchdown. He's a tough dude. And he's kind of the afterthought when you like talk to, especially fantasy wise, and that's what people in fantasy football, they're like, okay, who are the two wide receivers that matter? Yeah. But in the Steelers, it's not really going to be that way this year, and it shows. Yeah, James Washington had the touchdown at the end of the first half, caught it, kind of jumped, got hit, managed to land on his feet, and then bully his way into the end zone from like the 2.5-yard line. So pretty great. Deontay Johnson, I wanted to mention because he had a pretty rough game. He made the Pro Bowl as a punt returner last year and botched the first punt return of the year, basically giving the Giants almost a free touchdown. Thank God our defense is like the best ever. And then he dropped another pass. And then in the first half, he got hit in the back by a pass from Ben where they clearly didn't read the defense the same. And he, I think, thought he was going to be blocking. And it literally hit him in the back, like center of the back. And he just like turned around. And Ben was disgusted. And for the record,
he basically, to Ben, Deontay Johnson is still a rookie. He's like this fucking rookie because he didn't play with him last year. Yeah.
Ben kept Ryan Switzer on this team for like 4 years. So I was pretty sure that Deontay Johnson was going to be on a bus after that play. But it turned out that he went immediately back to Deontay on the next play, which was third down, and made a conversion. And that really made me feel a lot better that Ben went right back to him and he made the play. He also had 3 catches on kind of the game sealing drive when they scored their last touchdown. 2 of them were third down conversions. So he didn't have a good game, but he is still in the inner circle. He's going to be catching a lot of passes and making a lot of good plays with the ball in his hands this year. So I'm very excited about him. You want to talk about the running game? I've been running my mouth a lot. I got a little bit to say about that.
Yeah. So James Conner came out early with an injury. I haven't looked at what it even was.
Ankle, sprained ankle, okay. Something.
But Benny Snell, my guy, my physical smash mouth fella, was just a weapon out of the backfield, and I think he had like 5 or 6 yards of carry.
Yeah, it was like somewhere in the range of 19 carries for 111 yards, 111, something like that.
Killed it. Benny Snell was a beast.
This was tough for me because I'm a James Conner fan. If you like people, you're a James Conner fan. He's just like, cancer survivor, likable, buys trucks for his parents on Instagram and watches their reactions. It's like, you just like him. He just wasn't getting it done. And first, before I go back to the Steelers, this is another credit that needs to be given to the Giants. I did not talk about their defense at all. Their defensive line has Dexter Lawrence, Dalvin Tomlinson, and Leonard Williams on it. And they're all huge, and they're all good at stopping the run. And I didn't appreciate that. And they were in the backfield a lot. And they were allowing linebackers to be in the backfield a lot. And, they just were doing their job really well against the Steelers' offensive line. And James Conner was not being decisive. He's really physical and he's pretty fast. So when he moves his butt, that's when good things happen. And he wasn't really doing it. He was doing a lot of shimmying, a lot of Le'Veon Bell kind of stuff. And it just wasn't working. It even happened like on one of his last plays with the ball was a screen pass, and it looked like he had all this time, and he just like didn't really get moving, and he got caught from the side by a linebacker. And I thought that's what Benny Snell brought to the table when he came in the game. He'd make a cut and he'd move his butt. He'd get north and south, he'd get physical, he'd break a tackle by getting some momentum so he could use his physicality against the defenders as opposed to getting tackled from basically a standstill. Also, I think it's a pretty significant advantage that Benny Snell has a spinner mouth guard. Like, I think that if you factor that in, like that's 2 or 3 broken tackles right there and some yards. So Benny Snell was probably the MVP of the game, frankly, for the Steelers, because without keeping the running game going, I don't know that they get everything else churning. So that was really good to see. Also, Benny Snell, known for being physical, outran Jabril Peppers to the corner on a nice outside run where he almost scored a touchdown late in the game. So he's got a little speed to him. He lost some weight this offseason. So Steeler fans, it's okay to get very excited right now. Yeah. Very excited.
I mean, kind of excited. Relax. It's the Giants.
Yeah, not as excited as when we saw Ray McCloud return a kickoff 35 yards. How about that? How about that? That's why you listen to this podcast. Ray McCloud. I brought you guys Ray McCloud early. Early birds get the worm, people. Ray McCloud, the 35-yard kickoff return. It's probably the longest kickoff return the Steelers had in a while.
Probably the longest kickoff return in the year of the NFL.
I hope not, but you never know. The way they kick them out of the end zone, not a lot of chances.
All right.
All in all, a good win against a less good team.
Yep. You want to hand out awards?
Yeah, let's do the easiest one first. Yeah.
Okay.
The weekly offensive Lamar Trophy.
The Lamar Jackson Invitational.
Goes to Lamar Jackson for being perfect in every way.
I mean, yeah. 20
Can't
for
really
25.
Anybody else.
Like 275, 3 touchdowns, no picks. He was surgical. He spread the ball around. He's a delight.
I mean, he managed to throw a touchdown to Willie Snead, and that dude's trash. So you got to give him a bunch of props.
Willie Snead does everything that you want him to do.
Poorly, and that's why you lose him and forget that you ever had him.
All right, moving to the
and least efficient nail file. That's Willie Snead.
Fingernail clippers, bottle opener, corkscrew.
Yeah. How many bottles of wine have you opened with a Swiss Army knife?
None. How many bottles of wine have I opened in my life? Maybe 2. So maybe that's a me problem. Defensive Player of the Week in the AFC North. We didn't have, to me, any obvious like stat freak guys, and I am going to buck my normal trend. I think like my first go-to move is to just nominate a Raven like Marlon Humphrey or Marcus Peters, and my second go-to move is to cuck Chad and pick a Steeler, and that's what I'm gonna do, and I'm nominating Bud Dupree as the AFC North Player of the Week.
It's got to be Bud. I think he was credited for like 3 tackles, and that's it.
Yeah.
And you know what? I don't even give a shit, dude.
Nope.
He was all over the place, ruining everybody's day all game. He was crazy good, and he deserves it. The Bud Dupree first week 1 Defensive Player of the Week winner.
There you go.
If the Bengals, Browns, and Ravens decide to play some good defense, maybe a non-Steeler will win it this year. Don't tell me the Ravens played good defense. The Browns were a joke.
6 points. I mean,
they were a joke.
6 points is 6 points. Historic pace
Overkill.
after week one. Ravens defense.
Baker Mayfield missed a wide open OBJ in the end zone. Don't even
Yeah,
start with
he
me.
did.
Don't even
He
start
sure
with me. And
did.
OBJ was already so pissed that he didn't even get mad. He just turned around and jogged back.
Yeah.
He didn't, which is it was almost the biggest indictment of the whole game. He didn't even get upset. He just
If there's any
oh man.
receiver in the NFL that's gonna get upset, it's OBJ. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, before we loiter on last week for too long, we're going to run into the first game of AFC North this week. Should we talk about the Thursday night football extravaganza
Yeah.
featuring half of the AFC North?
Yeah, let's do some quick previews here. So we have I don't know who the home team is. Do you have that in front of you?
Yeah, it's the Browns.
It doesn't really matter. Yeah.
They're
Browns
both Ohio.
Bengals
It's the Browns.
in Cleveland. The Browns are a 6 point favorite at home, and they should win with ease. They
Yeah.
should.
Yeah.
But I don't know, man. I don't know.
Dude, here's the deal. What did we decide that the Browns are good at right
Running.
now on offense?
Yes.
Yes. And let me just tell you something. Do you know who Geno Atkins is?
Yep.
Yeah, he's going
Sure
to be in the
do.
Hall of Fame. He's an interior defensive lineman. He's going to probably be on the bench. I'm pretty sure you don't know who Mike Daniels is, so I'll just tell you. He's Geno Atkins' backup. So the Bengals
From the Packers,
officially,
Mike Daniels.
uh,
He's a
I
nice
don't
little
know,
player.
and I don't care. Yeah, he's going to be a nice little bench rider because he is out. So the
Oh.
Bengals basically have DJ Reader and a bunch of the fat kids that got picked last for kickball in gym class trying to defend the run on the interior, which we discussed is where Cleveland blocks the best.
Mm-hmm.
So Cleveland needs to just run all the time. They need to run all the time. Like, this is going to be a debacle. One more stat for you, because you know how I love numbers. Remember how we talked about how Cincinnati needed to get Joe Mixon involved like all the time last week in order to take pressure off Joe Burrow? Kind of felt like they did, right?
Yep.
Kind of felt like they did. You know that Joe Mixon caught the very first Joe Burrow pass? It was the first play of the game. You know how many more passes Joe Mixon caught? Big fat zero. Get your shit together, Zach Taylor. What is wrong with you? Throw the ball to Joe Mixon. Jesus Christ, he's the best player on your team. If Joe Mixon catches one pass, the Bengals lose every time. I'm just telling you right now. You can write that stat down, put it in your Las Vegas notebook for betting. I don't care. They need to get stuff going because Baltimore's defensive line has got Sheldon Richardson, Olivier Vernon, Miles
Cleveland.
Garrett, and yeah, Cleveland's line. And is it Larry
Larry
Ogunjobi,
Ogunjobi.
who was a freaking beast against Baltimore? He was all over the place. I think he got at least one sack on Lamar, which is like basically a trophy in and of itself.
Yeah.
And they are going to just sack lunch Joe Burrow at least 4 times if he doesn't run a ton of screen passes to Joe Mixon. Like, I mean, 4 has got to be the minimum, right? What's the over/under on sacks on Joe Burrow?
Let's
3.5.
say yeah, 4 is good. Let's say 4.5.
I'll take the under on 4.5. I'm saying 4. I'm saying 4.
All right.
So that's my assessment of that. The Browns need to play some defense. I don't know. Do they get any of their secondary players back? Probably not. I think the dude Johnson with the liver laceration, or he's not coming back
That
yet.
doesn't sound like a
So,
comeback in 3 days.
dude, it happened in the preseason, and it's like the is it liver? I had it written down. It's liver. So liver, you come back. Spleen, you don't. Um, so he should be back actually relatively soon. But yeah, the Browns. I thought that the depth in the secondary would be better, but they're going to need to rush that passer because turns out Cincinnati's got some playmakers out there. AJ Green doing some stuff. So, who do you take? Who's gonna win?
Um, man, my head says the Browns, but I keep like coming back towards this game being closer than I think it should be. Um, but yeah, I'm gonna go with the Browns. But I think the Bengals will make it
All of them.
close.
No, I don't. I think that everyone is all, oh, Joe Burrow, he's so cool. Dude, they scored 13 freaking points against the Chargers at home. The Chargers aren't even that good. It was two bad teams playing a close game. The Browns are going to score at least 24 points without even doing anything better than they did last week. 24-10. Browns.
200 yards rushing. Team.
For each running back.
Baker Mayfield, 4 for 7 for 35 yards, all to Jarvis Landry.
Or Njoku, even though he's hurt. I think he's on IR.
Is he really?
Let me check. I wrote some of that stuff down. He's hurt. I don't know if he's on IR, but I don't think he's playing.
Well, maybe they can find Austin Hooper
IR
then, because he fucking disappeared.
Yeah, for real. They did throw a couple passes to that rookie, though, that I told you guys to watch out for.
He had one of the first catches of the game.
Gotta love it.
Boom. Advanced
scouting. So we're excited about that. If the Browns don't win this game, then Justin probably is officially retired from this podcast. By the way, we'll definitely cover the Browns draft on a special pod next week. Mm-hmm. And that settles it. So we're excited. Tomorrow night. Yeah, tomorrow night, AFC North football. It might be the lower half of the AFC North, but watch it anyway, because even lower half of the AFC North is the best half of any other division in football.
Watch it anyway, because you don't have shit else to do. Spoiler alert, the Heat are going to beat the Celtics in Game 2, so just watch football. Moving on, so
according to Joey,
we have the privilege this week again to only have one AFC North game at a time on. So the next one will be Sunday afternoon at 1 p.m. where Drew Lock and the Denver Broncos will travel to the Big Ketchup Bottle where the rivers meet and take on the Steelers in the home opener. I am higher on the Broncos than most people, but the Broncos butt-fucked me in the first week of fantasy by pulling Cortland Sutton out an hour before game time on the second Monday night game of the week, and I was not going to pick somebody up just to play them in week 1 for the last game, so I just took the L like a man and moved Cortland Sutton out of my lineup this week. So for that, I'm taking the Steelers, but I'm higher on the Broncos than most people are, and we talked about the Steelers starting slow, and they were able to avoid disappointment against one sophomore quarterback. I think he's a sophomore. Is this his third year or second year?
Second year.
There you go. So
sophomore.
Another sophomore quarterback, Drew Lock. Maybe he can take him down.
So everybody, I hope you appreciate how often in the podcast life you are able to get full game analysis based entirely on spite. You just got it straight from Joey. That's A+ stuff right there. You're not going to get that. You're just not going to get that anywhere else. That's why you're here. I think the Steelers have to respect the skill players in the passing attack. Cortland Sutton technically practiced today, so I think you have to assume he's going to play if you're on the Steelers. If you have him in your fantasy lineups, I would probably treat it like Joey does. And KJ Hamler, who is their, I think, a second-round pick. They picked him in the draft. Mm-hmm. He hasn't really played at all, but he's been practicing in full, so he's going to be back. They also have Noah Fant, very talented and athletic tight end. And they have Jerry Jeudy, who's arguably the best wide receiver coming out of the draft this year.
Vince
So
Williams take
there's
care
like
of him.
Vince Williams will blitz and he will kill running backs and quarterbacks, but he will not be quite as effective in the coverage game. Although he's smart, so he won't, do stupid things. He just might not do athletic things. So you got to respect those guys, but you don't have to respect him a ton because Drew Lock is possibly way overrated. He is 4-2. That's his record as a starting quarterback. So not only is he a sophomore, but he's sort of a rookie sophomore because he hasn't started a whole season worth of games. Um, he's thrown 8 total touchdown passes in his 6 starts. 3 of them were in his second game. So I don't know if I'm afraid of this guy. I know I said that before this year, and people have proven me wrong and earned my respect. But I think I'm going to have to say, Drew Lock, you have to earn my respect. I don't think you're any good, but I do respect the people he's throwing it to. So you got to at least guard him a little bit. You can't be throwing like 8-person blitzes in there or whatever, because these guys are fast and they'll catch jump balls or whatever. Minka can handle it. Handle it, Minka. Don't listen to Joe if he tells you to jump up on a shallow route. You let that shallow route go. You heard it from me, Minka. Other than that, not a ton to talk about in terms of the Broncos offense. They got Melvin Gordon. I think most people would say he's like pretty good, but probably past his peak abilities
Mm-hmm.
based on what the Steelers did to Saquon Barkley. I think with 60% of the investment, they get 80% of the return, if you know what I mean. Like they don't have to sell out against the run this week to get a pretty similar output in terms of not really having him be a big impact on the game. Steelers' major point of concern here is their O line, and it is a major point of concern. They lost their starting right tackle, Zach Banner, for the year in week 1. And I haven't heard officially, but oh, what's your first name? Wisniewski. Shoot. What's Wisniewski's first name? Stefan.
Stefan, yeah,
Stefan. Stefan Wisniewski. He was starting at left guard, I want to say. I get them mixed up.
I think so.
No, right guard. Right guard. Starting at right guard for David DeCastro. And he is out with a pec injury. And if it's a torn pec, he's going to be out for the year. And David DeCastro was out last week. So now we're talking about like a lot of offensive linemen. There's only 5. I have now covered 3, possibly not playing.
Do the math.
This is a big deal. So we got a guy named Chukwuma Okorafor. He's going to play tackle for Zach Banner. Don't panic, Steeler Nation. He's probably about as good as Zach Banner. They battled it out for the starting position this year. It was closely fought. They gave it to Zach. Okorafor will come in. Don't expect him to go to the Pro Bowl, but he'll probably not embarrass you, especially since Von Miller isn't playing. The guard situation's dicey. It's dicey, people. I'm not going to lie. I would pray all of your prayers that you normally reserve for your children. I would put 80% of those towards David DeCastro's health. And I would put 5 other percent into Kevin Dotson having a really, really fast learning curve because there was no preseason and he was injured for part of the no preseason that they had. And he's going to be starting at right guard this week, like for sure, or one of the guards, almost certainly. So, yeah, it's okay to be a little nervous. Luckily, Denver doesn't have Von Miller. But they do have Bradley Chubb, and they do have Jarrell Casey, who was a pretty good player in his own right for many years. He's kind of on the downward trend now, but he's probably good enough to take Chukwuma off the line a couple times. And, funny business, too. The Giants ran some packages last week where they had nobody with their hand in the dirt, just a bunch of people standing around acting like they're at a picnic, and then they rush the ones they rush, and that seemed to work. The Ravens do that kind of shit sometimes. And that could confuse a Steelers offensive line that's made up of like 3 new people or whatever it takes. So I'm a little nervous. I'm a little nervous about the O line, but Steelers should still win handily. I think the spread is 6.5. Put your mortgage on it.
Woo! Bet the farm.
Bet the farm.
Right on. Yeah, I mean, I think the Broncos are better than the Giants. Um, but I expect the Steelers to win. Ben won't have the first quarter and a half of warming up like an old diesel engine. Uh, they should be able to step right in, get the run game going, hopefully, and take advantage of an inexperienced quarterback because that's what really good defenses do.
Yeah, I might not even think that the Broncos are better than the Giants. Like, AJ Bouye is their best corner. He's out too. I forgot to give props to the Giants corner who actually played a really nice game. Bradbury forced a fumble, took away a deep pass from James Washington. Bouye is not going to be around to do that sort of stuff. They also don't have Saquon. Like, in hindsight, I respect the Giants more than I respect Denver, and prepare in week 3 for me to respect Denver more than I respect our week 3 opponent. And that's the way it's going to be, people.
All right, so we're both on Pittsburgh there. And then
score prediction. I'm going to 30-13.
27-17.
17. 2 touchdowns they give up? Yeah, they'll probably give up one on some dumb shit like Deontay fumbling another punt.
Yeah.
All right,
or Ben will throw a stupid fucking interception. That's what he does.
He does that a lot.
Last game, probably the marquee matchup of the division. Just as far as competitiveness on both sides. Ravens at the Houston Texans at 4:25. That's right, everybody. That's the America's Game of the Week time slot, and it's America's Game of the Week because of Lamar Jackson. Lamar and Deshaun. I actually think this is really good scheduling luck for the Ravens. The Browns are not great, and it's easy to get a big head smashing the fuck out of the Browns, just like the Ravens did when they started against like the Dolphins and the Jets or whoever they smashed the shit out of in the beginning of last year, Arizona week 3, whatever it was. The Texans are, and we saw last Thursday, basically Kansas City light. They've got some really fast receivers. They've got Will Fuller, Brandon Cooks. They've got some pass catching backs, David Johnson, David, whatever his name is. David Johnson, is that his name? David and Duke they have? Johnson? Weird.
Both of them. You've said it right every time.
And their defense isn't great. I don't think the Chiefs' defense is great, but the Chiefs' defense is better than Houston's defense. J.J. Watt's there and Whitney Merciless, but after that, like, Zach Cunningham's a nice little linebacker, but I'm not really scared of anything Houston's doing on the back end.
I always forget the safety that they have that they like. Keep talking.
So I think that this game will go pretty similar to how last year's Houston game went. It might be close for a little bit, but I think the Ravens will basically score at will. That's what they've been doing for the last 17 regular season games, pretty much. And I just don't think Houston will keep up. The Ravens have too many playmakers on defense, and Deshaun Watson will give you the ball. That is probably one big knock on him. You know, he likes the late game heroics, and he's immensely talented, but he is not averse to throwing you the football. So I would expect that to happen, and that'll be the difference in the game.
Yeah, I'd love to come up with a way that the Ravens get get dealt here. I think that the way it would happen is if David Johnson kind of plays like it's 2016. The Ravens can clearly be run on, um, and he is a more than capable pass catcher at his peak,
Yeah.
which could challenge Patrick Queen if he's not as assignment oriented as he was in Week 1, or if the Houston is able to make things hard for him to discern. Um, you got to love LJ Fort though helping, and they always bring Chuck Clark down into the box too. So it's going to have to be clever. I
Bill
don't
O'Brien's
think that even
specialty.
yeah. Well, I think he's a better coach than GM by about a
Yeah.
trillion units of measurement.
Yeah.
So they're not incapable. But man, Will Fuller and Brandon Cooks, they're not like they're not known for their versatility as receivers. They will run the routes, but they're deep threats. They're speed guys, and if
Mm-hmm.
you give talented cornerbacks, receiver with less than a very diverse skill set, it's going to be easier for them to work. So I just don't think that the Ravens will be intimidated by the Houston's receivers, even though they have talent. So it really just comes down to, can the running game do its thing? And then Deshaun can make people better um, by being elusive and by using his arm and his head to make really good decisions, and be the guy that gets paid all that money next. Or did he already get paid a bunch of money? He got paid a bunch of money, right? He's in that like $40 million. Didn't they just pay him?
Yeah, he just
I'm
got paid this
confused.
offseason, I think.
Yeah, so he's like short of Patrick Mahomes, but a bunch of money.
Mm-hmm.
So, he's good. He's gonna make some crazy plays, but it might take three crazy plays just to keep the game to 14 points.
Yeah.
um, yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I don't think the Ravens, like you said, have shown us their kind of true colors of what their offensive identity is yet either.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
who's
I
going to be
mean,
their lead
there's a
back?
lot to be watching for the Ravens. The backfield, uh, like workload splits are going to be interesting. Mark Ingram, after
Yeah,
like the first couple of drives, just wasn't even like around. Um,
yeah.
Gus
And
Edwards was only
J.K.
in at the end of the game. Yeah.
And
Um,
J.K. Like frankly, he wasn't that productive. He scored the
mm-mm,
touchdowns, but it's not like he was running wild on everybody.
right.
And they did hardly any read option, which was like a foundational element of their offense last year. Designed running plays for Lamar. They basically went completely away from it. So it's hard to believe they won't bring that back in some game or games in a dominant way. So we'll see.
Yeah.
I'm not envious of Houston trying to game plan right
I
now.
I do not advocate looking ahead. However, I think if they can avoid this being a close game in the second half, they will keep as much under wraps as possible for the Chiefs game. Because I guarantee that's week 3, and that is the game right now on the schedule. So,
Heck yeah.
my score prediction, 41-28, with Houston
Yeah, I'll
scoring
say
like a garbage time touchdown at the end to make it respectably close, I guess.
38-24.
There you go. All right, everybody. Join the Pick'em Pool. There is a post in our Facebook group. We don't care if you joined late and you missed a week. We follow it every week. We have fun with it. Um, it was a
Are you going
really
to announce the
competitive
winner?
week. What's that?
I said, are you going to announce the winner? We usually say who won
Yep.
every week.
Yep. It was a really competitive week last week. Um, a
Except
bunch
for
of
me.
people got 10 games picked correctly. But Jared, who is the newest member of the Fantasy Football League that I commission, His team, War Pigs, picked 11 games right. Looks like the big one that he picked that nobody else did. There weren't any big surprises. Just a good mixture. Just a solid week from Jared. So,
And I am in last place. Not for long, suckers. Not for long, because I
nice,
know
nice.
what's about
I
to
mean, it's
happen.
only 2 points back, though. So,
Yeah,
there's a
I'm
lot of time
poised.
left to make that ground up. So,
Poised.
everybody have a good week. Enjoy maybe Color Rush tomorrow night. Browns, Bengals. Bengals Color Rush road uniforms are fucking sick. The white with the black stripes, those are dope. And enjoy some football. It all culminates at 4:25 on Sunday with two of the better young quarterbacks in the league, and should be a good time.
Yep. Next Wednesday, join us for things like Chase Claypool's Megatron and Lamar Jackson is not perfect. Here's why. Mental gymnastics to follow.
Yeah.